Pro Wrestling Weekly presents Today in Wrestling History, January 28. On this date in 1978, Stephen Farrelly was born. The former two-time WWE champion known as Sheamus turns 34 today. On this date in 2008, WWE Monday Night Raw aired live from the Wachovia Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In the main event, John Bradshaw Layfield and Randy Orton pinned Chris Jericho and Jeff Hardy. On this date in 1975, Dean Roll was born. The former TNA superstar known as Shark Boy turns 37 today. On this date in 2007, WWE held its Royal Rumble pay-per-view. In the main event, The Undertaker won the 30-man over-the-top rope Royal Rumble match. This has been Today in Wrestling History, January 28. Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Yes, that's right. 5 years ago, The Undertaker, the first person to come in at number 30 and actually win the thing, and then John Cena would do it 1 year later. The only two to have done that. One of the numerous interesting facts about the Royal Rumble. There are also... that same number, too, is how many have won it at number one. We've talked about that, Shawn Michaels and Chris Benoit. There are also two superstars who have won it at number two. Of course, Mysterio, we talked about his marathon of 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 12 seconds. The other, you have to go back to 1999, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. That's right, Vince McMahon winning the Rumble as entrant number 2. Yes, that's right, the owner of the WWE, Bill Melody. Crazy stuff there. Of course, the person who has won the most Rumble matches, Steve Austin, winning 3 times, once in 97, 98, and 2001. And he is one of 3 superstars who have won back-to-back Royal Rumbles, the other 2 being Shawn Michaels from the mid-90s and Hulk Hogan from the early 90s. 11 times Rumble winners have gone on to WrestleMania and won the title since getting a title shot in 1993. Of course, Yokozuna, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Austin did it twice, Triple H, Brock Lesnar, Chris Benoit, Batista, Rey Mysterio, and The Undertaker. The most all-time eliminations, Shawn Michaels has 39. He has eliminated 39 people in all of the Rumble appearances that he's had. And Kane is in second with 35. Might we see an appearance for him to overtake that career stat? Who knows? Kane will already, if he does go into the Rumble, he'll extend his number of overall appearances. As Kane, this would be his 16th. Well, it would be Kane's 14th, but the character who plays, or the person who plays the character Kane, it would be his 16th Royal Rumble, as of course Glenn Jacobs appeared once as the fake Diesel and once as Isaac Yankem DDS, going back to the mid to late 90s on both of those. The number position, I'm sure you've heard this a few times, and you might want to take note of it for tomorrow's event. The position that has gotten the most Rumble victories, it's happened 4 times with number 27. Of course, Big John Studd back in 89, Yokozuna in 93, Bret the Hitman Hart in 94. He was a co-winner along with Luger, and Steve Austin in 01. So 27, that might be a number to behold for who might win the Rumble. Also, you might want to look for some rookies, as on 9 occasions out of the 24 years has somebody who's been in the Rumble for their very first time gone on and won it. Of course, those being Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Big John Studd, Yokozuna, Lex Luger, Vince McMahon, Brock Lesnar, Ric Flair, Chris Benoit, and Alberto Del Rio. Of course, doing that last year, it was Del Rio's first ever Royal Rumble. The Final 4, I don't know if anybody's going to come close to this record. Well, making the Final 4 a few times. Actually, Cody's got a good shot to do that. But being in those last 4 in the ring, 5 times that's happened by 2 different people. Shawn Michaels and Steve Austin, they've been in the Final 4 5 times apiece. And in the, in a couple of these cases, once or twice the bride, but also definitely the bridesmaid. Being a runner-up not once but twice in the Rumble. That's happened to 4 different superstars. The Big Show, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and John Cena, all being runners-up. some interesting stuff there. Not surprisingly, the shortest Royal Rumble match was 33 minutes, and that was back in 1988 because there were only 20 superstars. And the longest, also not surprising, lasted 70 minutes, and that was last year because of the 40 superstar rule. Shortest time in the ring for anybody, of course, is Santino Marella getting knocked out in 1.9 seconds 3 years ago. And the shortest time in ring for a Rumble winner, 7 minutes and 19 seconds, courtesy of Edge a couple of years ago. Wow. And the WWE, they love throwing out this info. In the 24 years that they've done this, the wrestlers in it have weighed a combined 194,107 pounds. That's a lot of beef between the... averaging out 24 years times 30, quick math, that's 720 different superstars. Add all their weights together, you're looking at 194,000 pounds and change. And, of course, the combined attendance for all those events, just over 420,000 people. 695 different entrants if you count all the duplications. Those are some Royal Rumble facts for you. Of course, courtesy of WWE. Interesting stuff. Some last-minute news and notes. Got it here for you. A little bit of trouble, possibly, for Linda McMahon and her Senate bid. As former U.S. Congressman Chris Shays announced that he is entering the race in Connecticut for U.S. Senate, creating a significant opponent for Linda McMahon in the GOP primary. Of course, that's the Republican primary. According to prepared statements, Shays tried to contrast himself with McMahon based on experience, saying, quote, "We can't afford to send someone to the United States Senate who doesn't have the experience and a proven record of getting things done in Washington. There is no time for on-the-job training. We need someone who is ready on day one," end quote. Linda McMahon's communication director said of Shays' announcement, "For nearly 20 years, Chris Shays represented the people of Connecticut's 4th District in the U.S. Congress. But in 2012, we need to elect people committed to changing not only the negative political culture, but the ineffective way Washington does business. Linda comes from the business world. She has known failure and success and will take a different perspective to Washington, a perspective desperately needed." So the mudslinging has already begun in the Republican primary up in the Senate, where Linda McMahon looking to get a Senate seat. And more legal stuff. It seems like there's a lot of that. The 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, they heard arguments earlier this week in the case involving Hustler magazine's publishing nude photos of the late Nancy Benoit after she was murdered by her husband, Chris, some 4.5 years ago. The case was decided in June of last year, with Nancy's family receiving a $19.6 million reward that was later reduced to $250,000 due to a Georgia law capping damages. Nancy's family was there to argue that the damages should be reinstated to the original amount, and Hustler argued that the publishing of the photos was their First Amendment right. They were photos that were initially released of Nancy back in 1983, and it was done based on publicity, and it looks like that is going to continue on. Oh, man. Well, also, Ted DiBiase, he suffered what is believed to be a wrist injury. Actually, he ended up confirming that on Twitter, saying, "To answer a lot of questions about me being injured, it's true. Broken wrist, torn cartilage. Wanted to know for sure before I announced anything." DiBiase said he still plans to attend the Rumble on Sunday for a pre-show DiBiase posse party, and he'll still be appearing at events and doing those DiBiase posse parties. Also, I know we talked a little bit about it last week, and of course it got postponed a week, so I'll talk a little bit about it again. Mick Foley announcing at the airing of his episode of Celebrity Wife Swap. It's been pushed back to this coming Wednesday, rather. It would be Tuesday the 31st. I've got a calendar in front of me. It's brilliant. 9 o'clock Eastern, of course, that is this Tuesday. And the USA Network, speaking of airings, they will once again not air the 2012 Hall of Fame induction ceremony the night that it's held. No official word yet on when or if USA will air the ceremony, but it will not be the day that it occurs. So maybe it'll be on a tape delay. Anyway, that's it for me. Go enjoy the Rumble. We'll be back next week to talk about the results and take a look at TNA's Against All Odds, which is coming up fairly shortly. Stay tuned. Bill Melody and the Country Music Hall's next. Thanks to Bill Melody, as always, for a great job producing. And I'll be back next week with more Pro Wrestling Weekly.
1490 WBCB, Levittown, Fairless Hills, Trenton.
Radio News, I'm Sean Scott Ferguson. President Barack Obama and Republicans used their weekly radio and internet messages to take each other to task over gridlock in Washington. Obama's calling for government reforms to ease gridlock and bar members of Congress from profiting from their position. Obama says many people encountered during his recent three-day trip are optimistic, but remain unsure that Washington can act. For the Republicans, Florida Senator Marco Rubio says the lack of action in Washington mostly reveals Obama's lack of achievement and failed leadership. Rubio says Obama would rather people not know that. The Florida senator says free enterprise is the solution to the growing gap between the rich and the poor. Rough seas off Italy's Tuscan coast have forced a delay in the start of the operation to pump out 500,000 gallons of fuel from the grounded cruise liner Costa Concordia. This is IRN USA Radio News.